My name is Margaret, and I'm 69 years old. 3 months ago, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I came out as a lesbian to my entire family. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't carry the secret anymore. You see, I've known since I was 16 years old that I was different. I married anyway. I had children anyway. I built a respectable life anyway. And for 53 years, I buried the truth so deep I almost convinced myself it wasn't real. Until I met her, a woman who made me realize that living a lie, even a comfortable one, is still slowly dying inside. This is the story of how I finally chose life over lies, authenticity over approval, and myself over everyone else's expectations. Have you ever known a truth about yourself that you were too afraid to speak? Or lived decades pretending to be someone you're not? Share your story below. I promise you're not alone in this struggle. I knew when I was 16. That's the part that haunts me most. I've known for 53 years, and I still spent half a century lying about it. It was 1970, and I was a sophomore in high school when I realized that what I felt for my best friend Sarah wasn't normal friendship. I'd lie awake at night thinking about her, feel my heart race when she smiled at me, feel devastated when she started dating boys. I didn't have words for it then, or rather, I had words, but they were ugly, shameful words that made me feel sick. My parents were devout Catholics. Homosexuality wasn't just wrong, it was literally a sin that would damn you to hell. I heard it from the pulpit every Sunday, saw the disgust on people's faces when they talked about those people. I learned very quickly that what I felt was something to hide, to pray away, to bury so deep no one would ever suspect. So I dated boys. I let them kiss me and felt nothing. I told myself I just hadn't met the right one yet. When I graduated high school, I went to a Catholic women's college, which in retrospect was both torture and heaven. Surrounded by women, some of whom I was definitely attracted to, but all of us so carefully monitored and controlled that nothing could happen. Then I met Thomas. He was a friend's brother, studying to be an accountant, nice and stable and utterly conventional. He pursued me with steady determination, and everyone, my parents, my friends, my advisors, told me how lucky I was. Thomas was a good Catholic man with good prospects. What more could a girl want? On our third date, he kissed me. I felt nothing. On our 10th date, he told me he loved me. I said it back because that's what you did. 6 months later, he proposed. I said yes because I was 22 years old and terrified of becoming a spinster, of disappointing my parents, of anyone discovering the shameful truth about who I really was. I cried the night before my wedding. My mother assumed they were happy tears. They weren't. I was mourning the life I'd never have, the person I'd never be, the love I'd never experience. But I walked down that aisle in white, made vows I didn't mean, and became Mrs. Thomas Henderson. The wedding night was awful. Thomas was gentle, but I felt like I was watching it happen to someone else. This continued for 44 years of marriage. The sex was infrequent and mechanical. I learned to endure it, to make the right noises, to get it over with quickly. Thomas never seemed to notice my lack of enthusiasm, or if he did, he never said anything. I had 3 children because that's what you did. I loved them fiercely, threw myself into motherhood with desperate intensity. If I couldn't be authentic, at least I could be a good mother. At least that part of my life could be real. But at night, Alone with my thoughts, I'd remember Sarah. I'd notice attractive women at the grocery store. I'd feel that familiar ache of longing for something I'd never allow myself to have. And I'd pray, God, please make me normal. Please take away these feelings. Please let me be content with the life I have. The prayers were never answered. The feelings never went away. I just got better at hiding them, at numbing them, at pretending they didn't exist. For 44 years, I was Mrs. Henderson, devoted wife, loving mother, respected member of our church community, and every single day I was lying. Thomas died 2 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, devastating. I grieved, genuinely grieved, because despite everything, he'd been a good man. He'd been kind, steady, present. He deserved better than a wife who could never fully love him, but I'd given him the best version of myself I could manage. After the funeral, after the casseroles stopped coming, after my children returned to their own lives, I was alone for the first time in 44 years. Alone in a too quiet house, with no one to perform for, no role to play. Just me and the truth I'd spent a lifetime avoiding. I should have felt free. Instead, I felt terrified. My daughters wanted me to join groups, make friends, get back out there. So I joined a book club at the local library, respectable, safe, appropriate for a widow my age. That's where I met Caroline. She was 71, retired English professor, recently moved to the area. Short silver hair, bright intelligent eyes, confidence that radiated from her like warmth. She referenced Audre Lorde and Adrienne Rich in our first discussion, and I felt my face flush with recognition. "You know their work?" she asked afterward, noticing my reaction. Yes, I mean, academically, from college," I stammered. She smiled knowingly. "Of course, academically." We started having coffee after book club. Caroline talked about her life with such openness it terrified me. Her career, her travels, her marriage to a woman named Patricia who died 5 years ago. She said it so casually, as if announcing you were a lesbian widow was as normal as discussing the weather. 37 years together, she said, showing me a photo. Best years of my life. I stared at that photo, two older women, arms around each other, genuine joy radiating from their faces, and felt something crack inside my chest. "That must have been difficult," I said carefully. "Being open about your relationship." Caroline studied me. "It was, especially in the early years. But you know what was more difficult? The years I spent before Patricia, trying to be someone I wasn't, married to a man I didn't love, playing a role, dying inside a little more each day." She paused. "You're married?" "Widowed, 2 years ago." "Did you love him?" The question was so direct, so invasive, so absolutely the thing no one had ever asked me. I should have been offended. Instead, tears started falling before I could stop them. "I cared about him," I whispered. "He was a good man, but love him? Not the way I should have. Not the way he deserved." Caroline reached across the table and took my hand. "How long have you known?" "Since I was 16. The words came out broken, 53 years of silence finally shattering. "I've known my whole life, and I've spent my whole life hiding it, burying it, pretending it wasn't real." "Oh, honey," Caroline said gently, "you're 67 years old. How much longer are you going to keep hiding?" That question haunted me for weeks. How much longer? I was 67. My husband was dead. My children were grown. What exactly was I still protecting by staying silent? And yet the thought of coming out, of admitting the truth after decades of lies, felt impossible. But something had shifted. Caroline had shown me what life could look like when you stopped hiding, and I couldn't unknow that anymore. I started therapy. At 67 years old, I walked into a therapist's office and said, I think I might be gay, and I've known for 53 years, and I don't know what to do about it. Dr. Reyes didn't even blink. Tell me about when you first knew. So I told her. About Sarah, about my wedding night, about 44 years of going through the motions, about Caroline and the photo and the question that wouldn't leave me alone, about feeling like I'd wasted my entire life living a lie. You haven't wasted your life, Dr. Reyes said gently. You survived. In a time and context where being gay could cost you everything, you did what you had to do to survive. But Margaret, you're not in that time anymore. You have choices now. The question is, what do you want to do with whatever time you have left? What did I want? I'd spent so long not asking myself that question, I barely knew how to answer it. But slowly, through months of therapy, the answer emerged. I wanted to stop lying. I wanted to be authentic, even if it was terrifying. I wanted to experience, even once, what it felt like to be truly myself. Caroline and I had grown closer. She was patient, never pushing, but her presence in my life was a constant reminder of what authenticity looked like. One evening, walking through the park after coffee, she took my hand. Just held it, casual and natural, as we walked. I should have pulled away. Instead, I held on. And it felt like the most radical, terrifying, wonderful thing I'd ever done. Margaret, she said softly, I care about you. I think you know that. But I need you to understand something. I'm too old to be anyone's secret. I did that once, decades ago, and I won't do it again. So if this, whatever this is between us, is going to be something, you need to be ready to be honest. Not just with me, but with yourself, and eventually with everyone else. The panic was immediate. I can't tell my children, they're Catholic, they'll be devastated, they'll think their entire childhood was a lie. Was it? Caroline asked. Did you love them? More than anything. Did you care for them, raise them, show up for them? Of course. Then their childhood wasn't a lie. Your love for them was real. The only lie was about you, who you are, what you need. And Margaret, don't your children deserve to know their real mother? Don't you deserve to stop performing for them? She was right, but that didn't make it less terrifying. It took me 3 more months to work up the courage, 3 months of therapy, of long talks with Caroline, of slowly accepting that I was 69 years old and running out of time to live authentically. Finally, I invited my 3 children to my house for Sunday dinner. Mom, what's wrong? My oldest daughter, Mary, asked immediately. You look terrified. I need to tell you all something, I said, my voice shaking. Something I should have told you decades ago. Something I've been hiding my entire life. My son Thomas Jr. looked alarmed. Are you sick? No, not physically. But I've been living a lie for 53 years and I can't do it anymore. I took a breath. I'm gay. I've known since I was 16. I married your father anyway because that's what you did in 1973. I loved him as much as I was capable of, but I was never attracted to men. I'm attracted to women. I always have been. The silence was deafening. Mary was the first to speak. You're saying you've been gay our entire lives? That your whole marriage was fake? The marriage was real in its own way, I said carefully. My love for you three was absolutely real. But yes, I've always known I was gay. And yes, I hid it, because in 1973, coming out meant losing everything: your family, your job, possibly your children. I was terrified. But it's not 1973 anymore, my younger daughter Patricia said quietly. You've had years to tell us. Why now? Because I'm 69 years old, I said, tears streaming. Because your father is gone. Because I met someone who showed me what living authentically looks like, and I realized I can't die without ever having been truly myself. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if this hurts you or confuses you or makes you question everything, but I need you to know the truth. Thomas Jr. stood up. I need some air. He left without looking at me. Patricia was crying. Mom, I don't care that you're gay. I care that you lied for decades, that we didn't really know you, that Dad didn't know. Did he die knowing his wife was never really his? I don't think he knew, I whispered. I hope he didn't. He deserved better. Mary's face was hard. Is there someone? Is that what this is about? There's someone I've been spending time with, yes, her name is Caroline. But this isn't about her, this is about me finally being honest about who I am. I need time, Mary said, standing. This is a lot. Come on, Patricia. They left. I sat in my dining room surrounded by the remains of a dinner no one had eaten, and wondered if I had just destroyed my relationship with my children for the sake of finally telling the truth. The weeks that followed were brutal. Thomas Jr. wouldn't return my calls. Mary sent a brief text saying she needed space. Only Patricia reached out, asking questions, trying to understand. I'm angry, she admitted during one difficult conversation. Not that you're gay. I genuinely don't care about that. But Mom, you let us grow up thinking we had this stable, happy family. And now I'm realizing you were miserable our entire childhood. That's hard. I wasn't miserable, I said. I was happy with you kids. Being your mother brought me genuine joy. The only part that was a lie was about me, my own identity, my own needs. Everything I gave you was real. But you weren't real, she said. You were playing a role, and now I don't know who you actually are. She was right. They'd known Mrs. Henderson, devoted Catholic wife and mother. They didn't know Margaret, the woman who'd been hiding inside Mrs. Henderson for 69 years. Caroline was patient through all of it. They need time, she said. You've had decades to process this. They've had weeks. Give them space, but don't disappear. Keep showing up. Keep being honest. Keep being their mother. They'll come around, or they won't. But either way, you've done the right thing by telling the truth. Slowly, painfully, things began to shift. Patricia started inviting me to lunch, asking about Caroline, trying to understand this new version of her mother. Mary remained distant, but civil. Thomas Jr. finally called, though the conversation was stilted and uncomfortable. I don't understand it, Mom, he said, but you're still my mother. I just need time. It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't rejection either. It was something. I'm 69 years old, and for the first time in my life, I'm not hiding. Caroline and I are together, openly, honestly, without apology. We hold hands in public. I introduce her as my partner. When people at church whisper, I let them whisper. Some of my old friends stopped calling. Several members of my church community made their disapproval clear. Even some extended family members expressed concern for my soul. Each rejection stings, but not as much as I feared. Because here's what I've learned. Losing relationships built on lies isn't actually losing anything real. My children are still adjusting. Patricia has embraced Caroline warmly, even bringing her kids to meet Grandma's partner. Mary is coming around slowly. She had dinner with us last month, which felt like progress. Thomas Jr. remains uncomfortable but present, which is more than I expected. But the biggest surprise isn't how others have reacted, it's how I feel. At 69, I feel like I'm finally alive. I wake up without that constant low-grade anxiety I'd carried for decades. I laugh more easily. I exist in my body instead of watching from somewhere outside it. Caroline says I've softened, opened, become more present. You were so tightly wound when we met, she told me recently, like you were holding yourself together through sheer force of will. Now you're just here, yourself. She's right. For the first time in 53 years, I'm just myself. Not Mrs. Henderson, not someone's mother or widow or church member. Just Margaret, a woman who happens to love women, who wasted decades hiding but refuses to waste whatever time she has left. Caroline and I are planning a small ceremony next spring. Nothing legal or official, just a gathering of people who support us. Patricia and her family, a few open-minded friends, members of the LGBTQ seniors group we've joined. It won't be the wedding I had with Thomas, big, traditional, full of people watching us perform. It'll be small, honest, real, everything my first wedding wasn't. Do I regret the decades I spent hiding? Yes and no. I regret the pain I caused Thomas, the years I spent miserable, the authentic life I never lived. But I also know that in 1973, coming out wasn't a real option. I did what I had to do to survive. I can't change the past, but I can choose differently now. And I choose authenticity. I choose truth. I choose the freedom to be myself, however much time I have left. At 69, I'm finally living instead of just surviving. And it's terrifying and wonderful and absolutely worth every difficult conversation, every lost friendship, every uncomfortable moment. Because this, being truly myself, loving openly, existing without lies, this is what being alive actually feels like. And I wish I'd had the courage to do it sooner, but I'm grateful I found the courage at all. Coming out at 69 was the hardest and most liberating thing I've ever done. I won't pretend everyone accepted me or that I didn't lose relationships or that my children aren't still processing. But I will tell you this, living authentically, even when it's hard, is infinitely better than dying while still hiding. If you're reading this and you're carrying a secret, whether you're 50, 60, 70, or beyond, please know it's never too late. You're never too old to stop lying, to start living, to choose yourself. Whatever time you have left deserves to be lived as your authentic self, not as the person you've been pretending to be. I spent 53 years hiding. I'm spending whatever years I have left being free. And I promise you, freedom is worth the fear. Truth is worth the risk. You are worth the courage it takes to finally, gloriously be yourself. Your turn. Are you carrying a secret you've been too afraid to share? Living a life that isn't truly yours? What would it take for you to finally choose authenticity? Share your story in the comments. This is a safe space for truth tellers and late bloomers. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to know it's never too late to come out, to be honest, to live freely. Remember, you're never too old to be brave. You're never too old to tell the truth. You're never too old to finally, beautifully be yourself.